Rain poured over New York like a curtain of glass, painting the city in shades of silver and sorrow. Daniel Mercer sat behind the wheel of his Bentley, the hum of the engine fading beneath the steady rhythm of raindrops. His hands rested on the steering wheel, strong but uncertain. The streetlights glowed faintly through the mist, and the reflections of passing taxis danced across the wet pavement. For everyone else, it was just another rainy night. For him, it felt like the beginning of something he could not explain. He had everything money could buy: penthouses, private jets, and the respect of an entire financial empire. But as he waited at a red light, a sudden flash of movement on the sidewalk caught his eye. A woman stood alone beneath a flickering street lamp, soaked to the bone, holding a little girl close to her chest. Her coat was too thin, her posture tired, her gaze stubbornly fixed forward, as though she had learned to fight the world alone. Then Daniel's breath caught in his throat. It was Claire, the woman he once called his wife. The woman he had let go when his dreams of wealth consumed him. And the child, her soft curls, the shape of her tiny face. He didn't need a second glance to know. That little girl was his daughter, Lily, the daughter he had never met. A storm far greater than the one outside began to stir inside his chest. For the first time in years, Daniel felt something stronger than ambition. Guilt, longing, and a strange warmth that cracked through the cold armor he had built around his heart. Without thinking, he opened the car door and stepped out into the rain. Each drop felt like a question, each step like an apology forming on his tongue. He didn't know what he was walking toward, only that he couldn't drive away again. Claire froze when she heard the sound of footsteps splashing through puddles behind her. She turned slowly, her soaked hair clinging to her cheeks. The moment her eyes met Daniel's, time seemed to split in half. The life they had shared and the one they had lost collided in the rain. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The noise of the city faded into silence, replaced by the distant hum of thunder. Claire's lips trembled, but her voice came out steady. "What are you doing here, Daniel?" she asked, holding the little girl tighter. Daniel opened his mouth, but the words dangled in his throat. How could he tell her that seeing her like this had ripped something open inside him? He had left thinking success would fill the emptiness. Yet standing before her now, every dollar he had earned felt meaningless. "I saw you," he said softly. "I couldn't keep driving." Claire's eyes narrowed, her expression a mix of pain and pride. "You saw us now after 2 years of pretending we didn't exist," she said bitterly. Her words stung, but he didn't defend himself. Lily squirmed in her mother's arms, her tiny hand reaching toward Daniel with innocent curiosity. "Mama, who's that?" she asked in a soft voice. Claire hesitated, her jaw tightening before she answered. "Just someone passing by," she said quietly. But Daniel's heart cracked at those words. He wasn't ready to be a stranger, not anymore. Rain streamed down his face as he stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper. "Please let me help." "You both are freezing." Claire shook her head. "We don't need your money," she said firmly. "We needed you, Daniel." The sentence hit him like lightning. Her voice didn't carry anger anymore, only exhaustion. For the first time, he saw what his absence had cost her. She turned away, ready to walk into the storm again. But Daniel couldn't let her vanish into the rain a second time. The rain fell harder as Claire tried to walk away, but Daniel's voice stopped her. "Claire, please," he said, his tone breaking the distance between them. For a moment, she stood still, her back trembling slightly before she turned around, the glow of a nearby diner sign reflected in her eyes. She hesitated, then nodded toward the warm light. "We'll sit for a while. Only because she's cold," she said quietly. Daniel exhaled in relief, following her toward the diner, each step heavy with regret. Inside, the smell of coffee and baked bread filled the air. Claire sat in a corner booth, wrapping Lily in a napkin she had turned into a makeshift blanket. The child's laughter, soft and pure, echoed like a melody Daniel had never heard before. He removed his soaked coat and offered it to Claire, but she shook her head, avoiding his gaze. He didn't press her, He just sat across from them, hands clasped, watching the tiny details he had missed. How Claire hummed softly to calm their daughter. How Lily's eyes sparkled when she saw the lights outside. It was all so simple, so human, and yet it felt unreachable. "Does she know about me?" Daniel asked carefully. Claire didn't answer right away. "She knows her father codes his dreams over her," she said finally, her voice low but steady. The words sliced through him. He wanted to say he was wrong, that he had changed, but he knew promises meant little now. Instead, he took a slow breath and looked at Lily. She smiled at him, her tiny hand reaching toward his. He hesitated, then let her fingers wrap around his thumb. The warmth of that touch silenced everything inside him. For the first time, Daniel didn't feel like a businessman or a millionaire. He felt like a man who had just remembered what it meant to love. Outside, the storm began to ease, but inside something entirely different was beginning to rise. A chance, fragile butte reel to make things right. The sound of the rain softened against the diner windows, leaving only the quiet hum of conversations around them. Daniel couldn't stop looking at Lily, who was now playing with a spoon, laughing as she tapped it against the edible. Every small sound from her felt like a reminder of everything he had missed. Her first steps, her first words, her first smile. He swallowed hard, guilt pressing against his chest. "She's perfect," he whispered. Claire's expression softened for a second, but she quickly looked away. "She's strong," she replied. "She had to be." A waitress arrived with hot chocolate and soup. Daniel slid the cup toward Claire, but she shook her head. "You don't have to pretend to care, Daniel," she said quietly. "You have your world, and we have ours." Her voice didn't hold anger anymore, just sadness. He leaned forward, his tone steady but full of emotion. "I don't want two worlds anymore," he said. "I want to fix what I broke." Claire sighed deeply, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's forehead. "Fixing isn't simple," she murmured. "You can't buy back time." Her words hung in the air, raw and honest. Daniel nodded, feeling every syllable. For once, he didn't try to control the moment, has simply listened. Lily looked up, her eyes curious. "Mama, can he come home with us?" she asked softly. The question made Claire freeze, her lips parting in surprise. Daniel's heart raced as he waited for her answer, the hope in his chest trembling like a flame fighting the wind. Claire didn't answer right away. Her eyes moved between Lily's innocent face and Daniel's trembling hands resting on the edible. For a moment, the noise of the diner faded, and all that remained was the heartbeat of three people caught between the past and the future. "Home?" she repeated softly, her voice cracking. "We don't have one, Lily. Not like before." The little girl looked confused, her smile fading as she hugged her mother's arm. Daniel's throat tightened. "Then let me help you build one again," he said gently, "not with money but with time, with love." Claire studied him carefully, searching for the man she used to know. She remembered the nights he worked late, the empty promises, the loneliness she had learned to live with. But now there was something different in his eyes. Not the cold ambition that once defined him, but quiet sincerity. "Why now?" she whispered. "Because I finally realized what I lost," he said, his voice unsteady. "And I can't stand knowing I turned my back on both of you." Tears welled up in Claire's eyes, but she blinked them away. Lily reached across the table, placing her tiny hand on Daniel's arm. "It's okay, Daddy," she said with a sweet smile, unaware of the storm her words created inside him. The word hit Daniel's soul like light breaking through the clouds. Claire's gaze softened for the first time that night. For the first time, she didn't look away. The rain outside had stopped, but inside Daniel's heart, something was finally starting to heal. Daniel followed them outside the diner, the night air cool and still after the storm. The city lights shimmered on the wet streets, and for the first time in years, he didn't feel the weight of success pressing on his shoulders. He only saw Claire holding Lily close, her tired eyes reflecting a quiet strength he had always admired but never understood. "You should get home," he said softly. Claire nodded but hesitated when she noticed his car parked under the street lamp. "You can drop us off," she said carefully, "but that doesn't mean everything is forgiven." He nodded, accepting her words like a promise he would earn. The drive was silent at first. Lily hummed a small tune in the back seat, tapping her tiny fingers on the window. Daniel smiled through the rearview mirror, watching her reflection. "You sing beautifully," he said. She grinned and replied, "Mama sings to me when I'm scared." Claire looked out the window, hiding a faint smile. When they reached her small apartment building, Daniel stepped out, opening the door for them. "You don't have to," Claire said quietly, but he did anyway. Standing beneath the faint glow of the entrance light, Daniel looked at them, the woman who once loved him and the daughter who had just found him. "I don't expect a second chance overnight," he said, his voice calm, but full of hope. "But I'll keep showing up even if it takes the rest of my life." Claire studied him for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Then start tomorrow," she whispered. Lily waved at him as they entered the building, her tiny voice calling, "Good night, Daddy." Daniel stood there for a long time after the door closed, rainwater dripping from the awning above. For years he had chased success, but that night under the quiet city sky, he realized he had finally found what truly mattered, not in boardrooms or bank accounts, but in the love he thought he'd lost forever.